All right, and here we go. My audience members, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Here you go. Okay. So my 5 topics that I'm going to talk about: hearing versus listening, listening barriers, including self barriers, information processing barriers, context barriers, and improvising your listening skills. So let's go ahead and start at the top. Hearing is a physiological process in which sound waves travel through the ear to your eardrums and make noises. It's the process of hearing noises. Listening is a psychological process. It's the process of making sense of the noises that come into your ears. So listening involves 5 activities. Those activities are selecting, attending, understanding, remembering, and responding. So when we talk about selecting, what we're talking about is selecting the material out of the myriad of noises that are coming at you at any given moment. You select what you want to listen to. So like, for example, right now all of you are selecting to listen to what I'm saying rather than the kids in the bedroom back there. Attending is your ability to choose to pay attention. So it's your choice to pay attention to what I'm saying. Understanding is obviously making sense of the words as they come to you. Remembering and responding involves, responding to the speaker in a manner that's appropriate. So our ability to listen and retain information is limited. As far as your retention goes, one day after hearing something, typically most people retain only about 50% of the information that was given to them. 2 days after we listen, we lose an additional 50%. So ultimately what that boils down to is that after 2 days, you only typically remember about 75% of the information that you hear. Compounding that problem are listening barriers. Some of those barriers are self-imposed, some of them are logistical, and some of them are environmental. So let's start with the self-imposed listening barriers. Your self-focus. What that means is at any given point while you're listening to someone speak, you're focusing on your internal conversation with yourself. So you may be wondering, how long is this class going to last? What am I going to make for dinner tonight? If you're running late, you're thinking about how am I going to organize picking up all the kids on time? Another self-barrier is emotional noise. So emotional noise is talking about your emotional response to either words or topics or the emotional state of the speaker. So there are certain words out there. For example, if you grow up in a household where 4-letter words were not typically used, a speaker who chooses to use those words can typically evoke some sort of emotional arousal out of you. And as far as topics, maybe there are hot button topics, things that people are not necessarily comfortable discussing, things like divorce or abortion or politics, religion, things like that. All those things can trigger an emotional response in the listener, and that emotional noise can interfere with your ability to hear and process information. Some information processing barriers. So these relate to more, rather than internal conflict, these relate to more along the lines of how quickly you can process information. Your processing rate refers to most people speak at about 125 words a minute, whereas most people can think anywhere between 600 to 800 words a minute. Information overload refers to information coming at you from various sources throughout the workday. Maybe your cell phone is ringing, your pager is going off, your fax machine is sending things in all the time. So the amount of information that is coming to you at any given time can affect your ability to hear things. Receiver apprehension. Receiver apprehension is about the receiver of the message being fearful of maybe misunderstanding it or not understanding the information. So that can affect your ability to collect and retain information. Shifting attention. It's suggested that gender plays a role in this. Typically men will lock on to a message, whereas women are more adept at shifting their attention between a couple of things. Cultural differences. Typically North American culture is centered on the speaker, and so if you're trying to improve communication skills, the focus goes on the speaker and a better way of delivering the information that they're trying to pass on, rather than the focus being on the listener. Some contextual barriers would be noise. If you're in an environment where there's a lot of noise in the background and you're having trouble hearing, barriers of time or place. This refers to maybe you're trying to speak to somebody in a situation where there's a lot going on around them, so you guys could move to a different location to have a more productive session as far as communicating. There are some things that you can do to improve your listening skills. Number one, stop what you're doing. That means turning off the television, turning off your computer, stopping whatever activity you're in the middle of, looking at the person that's speaking. So you're choosing to select and really focus on the person that's talking, and listen. Turning off competing messages is important. So for example, if you have kids in the room, those kids are pulling at your coat sleeves and you're trying to listen, you can send the kids away. Listening with your eyes, that means paying attention and focusing on the people that you're trying to listen to. You can move to a different location. You can avoid insulated listening, and what that means is avoid listening with a bias. So if you already have an opinion about a subject, try to avoid having your opinion overtake everything that comes from the speaker. Try and be a little bit more of an analytical listener. You can also try to avoid pseudo-listening. Pseudo-listening is where you're watching television or doing something on your computer, and yes, I'm listening, and the speaker is trying to get your attention. So that's it.